Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 583. I had the white pieces and played e4. My opponent played knight to c6, a very unusual response at this point called the Nimzowitsch defense. So I continue with d4, which is one of the main ideas, although it looks like knight f3 might be interesting to play here as well. When you play d4, you're sort of playing into the territory that the Nimzowitsch player is familiar with. Knight f3 is offering, here let's just take a look at it, offering to transpose back into a normal opening, like after e5 you could continue with the bishop move going for the Italian game or the Ruy Lopez. But I would guess if somebody plays the Nimzowitsch defense, they're probably not going to follow up with e5, but maybe with the d6. And so if you don't mind playing those classical openings after e4, e5, then this should be a reasonable way to play, because now d4 seems to be even more, even a better move than it was previously. Let's see, knight f6, and you have a big center. Okay, but I played d4 immediately. Let's go back to the opening book, and it's not a bad way to play. Keeps the edge. So we'll try and locate where the problem arose. There's two main replies here. There's d5 and there's e5, both immediately going after this extended pawn center. There's other moves that could be played here, but my opponent played e5. And I didn't really think about taking too much. Pawn takes, knight takes. It seems like it just kind of helps him. But I can gain a tempo on that knight later with the f-pawn or maybe the bishop coming out. So that seems like a reasonable way to play, but d5 also is a principled way to play. You're given the opportunity to gain more space in the center, and why not? Knight c to e7, and then looks like if we go up here, it looks like c4 is the top choice on the opening database. That's one of the moves the engine approves of, c4. It's got a high score here. Also knight f3. Knight c3 is a bit of a slow move. It blocks the c pawn, and it supports these pawns in the center, but they don't really need the support at the moment. They're not under attack, and after knight g6, they're not coming under attack, at least not quickly. He's got to develop this knight first. Knight f3 is a move that comes with tempo because it attacks the e pawn. Anyway, we're out of the opening book after my next move, g3. Just keeping his knight out of these squares. And you'll see that even though I haven't played the most precise moves, I've still kept some kind of opening advantage. So really the problems start later. But he plays a good move here, bishop b4. Top engine choice. I unpin. He goes knight f6, attacking my pawn here, and I go bishop to g2. So my edge has diminished slightly, but still, okay, we're in about an even game, let's call it that. He castles, knight g2, and d6. So we stay in the range of about even. I think these are pretty normal developing moves. He goes a6. And this is interesting. This gives a retreat square for this bishop once I start kicking it around, which I do. I went a3 here, and then b4, gaining some space on the queen side and kicking the bishop back. But this is a good diagonal for the bishop, and we'll see that later in the game that causes some problems. I immediately play king h1, and well, I would still consider this in the range of about even. I did briefly consider bishop e3 here, but after takes and takes, I mean, I've gotten rid of that annoying piece, but I haven't. But I've taken on some doubled pawns here, and yeah, it looks like that's good for black. So let's go back to the game. King h1. Not the best move either. So maybe this a3, b4 here was a little bit weakening on the queen side and didn't really accomplish much since his bishop stayed on that good diagonal. If we go back to where I played a3 here. Well, a3 it likes okay, bishop c5. It's b4. Yeah, maybe b4 is not the best move. So another move here. Knight a4. That's an interesting idea. Knight a4, kicking the bishop and allowing the c-pawn to come forward. Now it also likes queen c1. Anyway, all these moves are in the range of about even. I wouldn't get too excited about this 0.1. This minus 0.1 is still in the range of about even. So king h1, though this starts to give an advantage to him. I wanted to free up the f-pawn to move forward. Let's see, it likes a4 here, pushing forward on the king side. queen to c1. Queen to c1 is not a move I thought about at all. Or bishop to c1. It's funny, yeah, the engine is suggesting a bunch of moves I didn't really think about. a4. a4 makes some kind of sense. Pushing forward on the queen side and maybe creating some weaknesses here. Rook to b1. Bishop to c1. Yeah, so I guess my position is a little bit awkward here. Let's back up. So the more it looks at b4, the less it likes it. So here, knight to a4, queen to c1. Knight to a2. Need to figure out ways to activate my pieces. I guess that's the point in this. Playing with the pawns and pushing the f-pawn forward seems like not the best plan. Anyway, he goes knight d7, and I pushed on with f4, and he should probably just take right away. That seems to give the best advantage. He played f5. So my f4 move was weakening, but his f5 move was weakening, and we get this kind of interesting situation in the center where there's, well, and in the center and king side, I guess you would call it, where the pawns are facing off against each other. And it's always tricky to determine which way to take. And I made the wrong decision here. I played f takes e5, and so in retrospect we can look at this and figure out why that's a mistake. For one thing, f takes e5 allows him to recapture with the knight, which for some reason I thought he was going to retake with a pawn, but that's a good square for the knight. And yeah, his knights are coordinating pretty well against my king over here. And that's a good central location for the knight. So that's one thing that's wrong with this f takes e5 move. And then the other thing is that there's something positive about e takes f5, which is it brings a piece forward, the rook, which is not particularly stable there. So the engine line is here. E takes f5, rook takes, and then bishop h3. I can get some tempo on the rook. The rook drops back, and I can secure the bishop here on e6 check, and have a slight edge here. King runs to f5, and the king runs to h8, and then I can push on with f5. So I've made some sense of my f4, f5 push, and gained a little, gained some squares, control of some squares around my opponent's king. I've kept his knight from coming forward because his pawn is still here, although he can always push this forward and plant a knight on e5 at some point anyway. But so let's back up to the game. That's why in this position right here it's better to take f takes e5 rather than e takes f5. You might prefer that there was some general principle here that you could apply, when taking this way or taking this way. But I think when you're faced with this kind of decision, you really have to just calculate and look ahead. And you might notice here, taking this way brings the knight forward, taking this way brings the rook forward. But the rook is not stable there, whereas the knight is stable there. So that's the difference in this particular case. Anyway, I played f takes e5. Cancel that. F takes e5. He took with the knight, and then I take here. And this is better for black already. That second take was now a mistake. Now he's got the bishop to take back with. He doesn't have to take with the rook, and helps him develop a piece. So I'd be better off leaving the pawn there and bringing my knight forward to a good square. Knight to f4 is the engine recommendation. So after this exchange, right here, black already has a significant advantage. This -1. This is really significant here. And it has to do with his pieces. Those two exchanges have brought two pieces forward. This bishop was already on a good square, and my pieces are still, they're out, they're developed, but they're not doing a whole lot. This bishop is staring at a pawn. This knight only has a few squares to go to. This knight can't even come forward here. I guess it could come forward there. I have a few moves, but his pieces are just much more active here. And this causes some trouble in a few moves. Let's see. I go with knight e4, trying to get my pieces into the game. He goes knight to c4, hitting my bishop, and now I go bishop g5, and bishop g5 hitting his queen is already a tactical mistake, and the tactics are kind of interesting here. So if you want to take a moment and try and figure out why is bishop g5 such a bad move, It's kind of interesting to look at. So pretty deep. So I don't know if you can figure this out, but it's an interesting position if you want to pause the video here and think about it for a while. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away now. I did play bishop g5, and now he can actually sacrifice the queen. He plays bishop takes e4, taking this knight. So he's got one piece for the queen. So I go ahead and grab the queen here. He takes this bishop with check, and then the knight comes in here with check, and he gets the queen back. So he's grabbed a piece, and now he gets the queen back. And he's going to end up a piece up at the end of when all the smoke clears, because he's going to get this bishop here. For example, I move the king away. He takes the queen. I take the knight, and he takes the bishop. And yeah, he's just a piece up after all of that. So that's losing. That bishop g5 move. Of course, that's a hard thing to spot in a blitz game. That kind of calculation is difficult to do in the amount of time you have. So anyway, he played queen e8, and but still he's just much better. I have all these holes in my position. I never dealt with this bishop on the long diagonal, so he has access to the dark squares here with his knight. It's coming in to always has a threat, I should say, of coming into e3 here with the fork of these three pieces, and my knight's under pressure at the moment with his queen hitting the knight, and it's just defended by the bishop, and it's attacked by bishop and queen. So anyway, I played knight to c3, defending the knight. He plays h6, kicking my bishop, and I should have stayed on this. Oh yeah, I did stay on this diagonal, but I moved to a square where he can chop it off. Let's see, let's back up one move. Yeah, I probably have to play bishop all the way back to c1, but even this is not so great. Let's see, how is his best way to play this? Queen e5 or queen d7? Let's say queen comes forward to e5. Yeah, how do I untangle here? Rook a2, unpinning the knight. Then rook is loose in the corner. Queen to d4, the queen comes forward. And if I go for the queen trade here, then yeah, still it's just a question of piece activity. It's very interesting that I have 1, 2, 3. We have the same number of pawns, and both sides have the bishop pair, so neither side has a material advantage in terms of pieces, and yet there's this advantage towards black. And I think you can see the greater activity that all his pieces have. That must be the main cause of this advantage. But it does require some precise play from here to take advantage of this. If he plays casual moves, it's possible I can untangle and survive this. Anyway, he played h6. I went bishop f4. This made it a little bit easier for him, because now he can just take this bishop off. Let's see, I took with the rook. And now he's got this knight e3. I don't have a bishop to protect that square. He played g5, hitting my rook. And I just dropped my rook back to f1. So that's a mistake, because that gives him that fork. Let's see, what's the best move here? Rook to f3 is possible, guarding that square. Once again, queen e5, hitting the knight. Well, this time the knight's protected and the rook is protected. So still pretty strong advantage to black. My best try here, what is knight f6? Check. Let's check this out. Knight f6 check. Rook takes f6, and rook takes c4. Taking advantage of the loose knight. So that's a way to untangle and minimize the damage. Actually, material is still even, but black is still better with his active pieces, and now he has the bishop pair. So I give up a bishop. Yeah, well, actually, I gave up a bishop here, so he gained the bishop pair with knight takes f4, rook takes g5. But the move I played was even worse. I went all the way back to f1. So rook takes f5, giving up the exchange that way would have been better. Anyway, with the rook on f1, this fork is pretty obvious. And the game is pretty much over. I keep playing. I went queen e2. Cancel that, queen e2. And he takes the exchange. And I went bishop to... he went bishop to d4 here. Yeah, bringing his bishop forward and putting pressure on my knights. Went queen to d3, trying to protect things. He did bishop takes and queen takes. So this loses a piece here. Let's back up. Was there any other defense here? Knight to b1 would have been a way to try and hold on, I guess. He's still, this is still defended. Queen e5. Once again. What's funny is that we're still in a situation where there's not much of a material difference, but this evaluation from the chess engine shows black being a piece up. So I guess there's some kind of... Oh, it's because he's won the exchange here. That's why. That's what that is. Okay, so then this queen d3 move just lets him win another piece. So another blunder. He takes on c3, and I can't take back with a knight because of the pin, so I have to take with the queen, and now this knight falls. And so now I'm down a whole rook. Let's see, I play on a few more moves. Rook takes, queen takes, bishop takes, but he checkmates me here. That's I was getting back to a position where it's only a only down the exchange, but I lose the king. If I want to save the king, I play something like king g1, then I'm down a whole rook. So anyway, I just took the bishop and let him mate me. And that's how the game ended. So it was a pretty interesting game, I thought. It shows that there is some punch in that that formula that the hypermoderns came up with, which was encouraging your opponent's pawns to come forward so that you can undermine them and attack. But also, I didn't play that well. I had chances. Usually, you know, if you can grab more space and hold on to it, you are better, but you do have to watch out for the weaknesses you are creating. Okay, so that's it for this video. See you guys later.